In a bold move that is already reshaping the conversation around vaccine safety, the Department of Health and Human Services under Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has introduced a new requirement mandating placebo-controlled trials for all new vaccines prior to approval. While the rule has met resistance from segments of the pharmaceutical industry and some academic experts, it also presents a rare opportunity to raise the standard of transparency and restore public confidence in vaccines at a time when misinformation and skepticism threaten to undermine one of medicine's greatest public health tools. At its core, this policy is rooted in a simple but powerful idea. The American public deserves to know, with as much certainty as possible, how new vaccines perform, not just in terms of efficacy, but also in terms of safety, side effects, and long-term health implications. Placebo-controlled trials, widely regarded as the gold standard in clinical research, have historically been used in many high-stakes studies to determine a treatment's true benefit and risks. By expanding this requirement to all new vaccines, HHS is signaling a commitment to making vaccine safety more verifiable, measurable, and accountable to the public. This could prove particularly important in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, where rapid vaccine development, although a remarkable scientific achievement, left some members of the public with unanswered questions. Many individuals remain hesitant about vaccines not because they are against science, but because they feel left out of the scientific process, unsure of how safety is determined or where they can find objective data. This new rule, by requiring the clearest form of scientific comparison, vaccine versus placebo, could help address that gap in trust. It offers an accessible, understandable framework for people to see how conclusions are drawn, instead of relying on layers of indirect data. Another positive implication is the potential to strengthen the scientific record for vaccines over time. With a standardized approach that includes a placebo baseline, researchers will be able to build more robust longitudinal datasets, compare different formulations more precisely, and identify subgroups that may respond differently. This could be especially beneficial for advancing personalized medicine and immunology, tailoring vaccines more effectively for children, the elderly, or people with underlying conditions. Critics have pointed to ethical concerns about using placebos when effective vaccines already exist, but that debate is not new, and it's already addressed in research ethics. Placebo use is typically restricted when withholding treatment would pose serious harm, but in many controlled environments, placebo groups can be managed ethically, with rescue therapies available as needed. The rule doesn't prevent comparative trials with existing vaccines, but it does ask developers to establish a true baseline before building on older products. This is not a rejection of prior science, but rather a way to deepen and expand it. Concerns about delays to seasonal vaccines or minor updates are also not insurmountable. The rule's language leaves room for HHS to define what qualifies as a new vaccine, and that gives regulators the ability to refine their approach with nuance and specificity. There is no indication that every strain update of the flu shot would suddenly require a months-long trial. Instead, the policy creates a flexible framework that can focus full-scale placebo trials where they matter most, on novel vaccine platforms, combination therapies, and treatments for new or re-emerging diseases. From a public health perspective, increasing the transparency of vaccine testing may also prove to be a powerful antidote to growing vaccine hesitancy. Many vaccine skeptics do not reject vaccines per se, but question the perceived secrecy and speed of regulatory approvals. By emphasizing the most rigorous form of testing, HHS is taking a strong step toward reclaiming the public narrative. It sends a message: we are not afraid of scrutiny, and we are committed to earning trust through data, not persuasion alone. Moreover, this change has the potential to level the playing field in pharmaceutical innovation. Smaller biotech firms, which may feel pressured to rush their products to market in the face of competition, would now be held to the same trial standards as major pharmaceutical players. This could reduce the risk of corner cutting, increase consistency, and ultimately benefit patients who receive vaccines that have gone through the most demanding form of clinical validation. Economically, it is true that rigorous trials come with a cost. But so do product recalls, public mistrust, and lawsuits arising from adverse reactions. Investing in better trials now may prevent the much larger societal and financial costs of vaccine hesitancy or medical error down the road. In the long run, This policy could encourage pharmaceutical companies to double down on quality, safety, and transparency, a triple win for their reputation, public health, and shareholder confidence. While no regulation is without complexity and implementation must be managed carefully, the intent behind the HHS rule reflects a values-based approach to healthcare, science in the service of people. Rather than framing the new rule as an obstacle, it may be more accurate and more constructive to see it as a corrective measure that closes gaps in our regulatory framework and rebuilds public trust from the ground up. Ultimately, this policy invites a future where science is not just something done behind laboratory doors, but a process the public can observe, question, and rely on. It may take time, and it will require collaboration between industry, regulators, and the scientific community. But in raising the bar for vaccine testing, HHS has created an opening for a new kind of public engagement with medicine, one that honors evidence, ethics, and transparency in equal measure.